me now is Kurt Volker. He is the former U.S. ambassador to NATO and the former U.S. special representative for Ukraine negotiations in the first Trump administration. First, let me get your reaction to what we just heard from Matthew Chance, who is in Moscow now, just hearing that they have appointed an ambassador to the United States. Is it a good idea for the U.S. to bring back and allow a Russian ambassador back into the country?
Well, I think you have to look at all these pieces together. What President Trump is trying to do is get Russia to stop the war in Ukraine. And so he's offering both sticks and carrots. On the stick side, we can talk about that, but sanctions are still in place, trying to drive down energy prices, continuing to arm Ukraine perhaps. And then on the carrot side, something like allowing a new ambassador to be there and regularizing the embassy. So he's trying to maneuver this to get Russia to get to an agreement to stop the war. So it's a judgment call. You have an ambassador. Russia's doing some terrible things, but at the same time, if you can use this to get an end to the war, maybe it's worth it.
Senator Jeanne Shaheen, we just spoke to last hour, and she said that Trump is falling for Putin, who is manipulating him and sort of tricking him into trusting him. And Trump says he trusts Putin. Is she right?
Well, I don't know, because everything Trump has done so far has actually been maneuvering Russia and moving things toward the possibility of an end to the fighting in the war. Trump has said that he trusts Putin, but that doesn't mean he does. That may also be a tactic on his part.
We are seeing this idea of a deal that Trump says is pretty much a done deal that will be signed when President Zelensky comes to the White House, and that's going to happen in just a bit from now. What do you make of this minerals deal? Because in looking at where some of these rare earth materials are in Ukraine, they're in the majority of it in the eastern part of Ukraine, where the fighting is still happening, where there are landmines, and where our reporters are saying, look, it's one of the most dangerous places that you can go. And the president's talking about sending U.S. personnel into Ukraine to help dig out these materials. Is this realistic?
I do think it's realistic. It's not only there that you have these minerals, and the deal is broader than that. It includes natural resources generally, including oil and gas as well, which are a much quicker win, if you will. And in terms of what this does, it provides a way for President Trump to tell the American people that Ukraine is paying its way. It's no longer charity. It's no longer aid to Ukraine. It's a deal between our two countries, and it's a partnership. For President Zelensky, it gets the U.S. invested in Ukraine. So we now have a stake in their success as well, which is a much stronger position to be in than just providing aid and waiting and seeing what happens. And as far as the economics go, it is very difficult for Ukraine right now, because of the ongoing war, to gain any value out of these natural resources. So the way this is being pitched is that 50% of something is better than 100% of nothing. And it's a win-win in this way for both countries to do this.
Mr. Volker, what do you think of the argument that much of the funds, if you will, given to Ukraine go back to the United States? They pay for the munitions, they pay for some of the companies that are sending over these munitions and military apparatus to Ukraine.
Yes. So I think this is normal in a sense. If you have a country that has resources, they can buy weapons and support, and they can use that to defend themselves. And I think from President Trump's perspective, this is more fair as a sustainable issue for the United States, for the American people, the United States, to work with Ukraine on a fair basis to provide support and to be paid back for the support that's given. That means it's not coming out of taxpayers' pockets. That means that it is not something that should be politically difficult to continue for as far as the eye can see.
Is everything okay back there? I'm just checking on you. It sounds like there's a wild animal in your house.
No. There's people coming and going through the lobby here. But thank you.
Okay, just making sure. It just seemed a little wild back there. I wanted to check on you. Lastly, I do want to ask you about these tariffs that Trump has said he's going to impose on Europe. Is it a good idea to sort of start making hay and making waves with Europe as he's trying to do this deal to try and make a deal with Ukraine, to try and deal with Russia to some degree?
Yeah, these are all different moving pieces which are coming together at the moment, but there's tremendously high risk as well. So you're focusing on the European side of this. What President Trump wants is for our European allies to take on a bigger share of the burden and for them to provide security guarantees to Ukraine, possibly with some kind of US backup. That's all in order to prevent Putin from attacking again. To be threatening tariffs on our European allies at exactly the same time is troubling to our European allies. It is irritating them. And I think that these issues can be dealt with and can be done separately. For example, Europe has already lowered the tariffs on US automobiles that would come in to Europe in order to even out the tariffs with the United States. But it is troubling to see that just as we are getting these pieces coming together, a ceasefire in Ukraine, reciprocity in terms of the economics with Ukraine, deterrence from Europe, burden sharing, that this could all still come apart.
Always the consummate ambassador, someone who is diplomatic to his core, Kurt Volker. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you coming on. Have a great weekend.